evening, Canterbury. Welcome to Newsmakers and great to be back with you. It's a pleasure to introduce our vivacious cast of commentators. From momentous public relations, David Lynch, Regional Councillor and Health Board member Joe Kane, and News Talk ZB's morning host Ellie Jones. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
It has been a pig of a week, and in fact it's been a pig of a month. May kicked off with swine, flu, fever. Then, of course, came the piggish weather, and, of course, this week has been consumed with the welfare concerns about our porkers. And we will start with the state of our porkers. Sour Crates. TVNZ Sunday programme, of course, has created quite a stir with its expose on how pig farmers treat their animals. Is the welfare debate long overdue? Ellie.
Absolutely, and I think the really interesting thing about this issue is that it's the law, obviously, that needs to change. The other part of this, I think, as a society too, we have to take some responsibility for this. This happens, this intensive farming happens, factory farming some call it, because of our demand for cheap meat. And those of us, I think, who don't question where food comes from, how it got there, what it's got in it, we are supporting this type of farming. And really, when you look at the price of meat in the supermarket at the moment, for only $1, $2 more a kilo, I say only, it does add up, but a little more, you can actually buy some pretty decent free-range organic pork, and you can support them here too. Morellan's the company in Canterbury, and I've been talking to them. And I would far rather eat a happy pig.
Do you care whether the pig was happy or not before it was slaughtered, David?
Well, I didn't see the programme on Sunday evening, and I guess my images of pigs generally is what I see portrayed at the AMP show, which is obviously quite different. I think it's good that the Minister has moved very swiftly to call for a review of the code. Clearly there's been an investigation into this farm that was investigated. I understand no wrongdoing has been found. So I think, as has been pointed out, the code urgently needs review. But I think consumers do need to think very carefully about, how animals are looked after, the food that we consume. And there are options out there.
Do you think consumers in New Zealand generally are becoming far more conscious of these types of issues? Because, compared to Europe, where sour crates are not allowed at all, the European consumer does seem to be a lot more holistic, shall I say, in its approach to what they buy and all the factors in the mix. Are we speeding up to that eventually?
I think we have to. What I wanted to add into, I agree with Ellie, is that in my role, I got to sit on an air discharge for a pig farm in Culverden, Patoa Farms, the largest pig farm in Australasia, 26,000 pigs, and it was fantastic. All the mamas were outside with the babies, and then they have these holding pens as the babies move on. That are the practices. That's what's happening in Europe. I heard this lame brain excuse about intensive farming, that it's about land. Well, New Zealand has plenty of land able to do this. I think that when you look at the chickens, when you look at pork, you get what you pay for sometimes, and if you buy those meats that are through those, you always have to take a chicken today. I won't use the brand, but you usually have to dress it up. But if you buy an organic or a free-range chicken, you can cook it on its own. You might pay $1 or $2 more. So I think that the Europeans are very smart. They go for quality, not quantity.
Can I just add quickly to that? I don't think we get what we pay for these days, actually. When I look at the price of food in the supermarket these days, I think we are paying far too much. I'm not going to pay $14, $15 a kilo for sausages, and I don't know what the hell's in them, or I do, and it's rubbish. We've got chickens at home. I know where those eggs come from, and they're beautiful eggs. If I could keep a pig or a cow in my backyard, I would. And in fact, I'm looking at buying a pig, not to keep, to take to the butcher and get it cut up and stuff. And I think more and more people are going to look at that. It's one thing to be aware of stuff, Mike. It's another thing to be able to act on it. You know.
Labelling needs a huge overhaul, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. The product of New Zealand or Australia.
Yeah.
Not good enough.
Yeah. Do you think most New Zealanders will rise to the challenge of buying happier pork, even though it will cost them? Let's suppose sour crates are done away with in the next 12 months and the costs on pig farmers go through the roof as a result. Will we happily pick up the bill?
No. It comes down to cost. That's the first thing I look at in the supermarket. I think what we have to do, it's a much bigger issue than that. I think we have to address how much we eat. Look at the levels of obesity in this country. I think we need to be encouraged to buy less, eat less, but better quality. And I don't know how you do that. I think that's a really hard thing to do, but I think that's the way you've got to try and go.
OK. Now, on the local front, there has been movement on the council's great spending spree on the Henderson properties. This is Central City South. Details have been announced about the master plan for the site, and there was a rather bizarre comment in the press on Friday. Mayor Bob Parker believes the plan is crucial to developing a heart to the city. The inference was, we don't have a heart in this dull little town at the moment. What did you make of this, David?
Well, I've always been very suspicious about the council as planners when you look historically at how they took the heart out of the city by destroying Cathedral Square. Now we've got a bus exchange that's about to become redundant. I don't believe it's the council's place to start determining what should be saved through now massive discounting at the cost to ratepayers. And I understand for something like 1,000 people to be housed in the CBD. It's an extraordinary plan from what I've read, and it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Joe, do you consider Cathedral Square as the right and proper and enduring heart of Christchurch, or has it essentially been given the flick?
Oh, I think it should, and I love the city and I love the city centre, but I think the buses or the horses bolted. If you actually look at what has happened, because you're going to have to do a change in people's behaviour. The planning bought us Riccarton Mall, Northland Mall, the Palms, with ease of parking, free parking, and per capita we have more of that retail space out in our suburbs. So it's going to be a kind of a hard ask to get people back into the city that Bob's talking about. And the same is with trying to get people to live back into the city in apartment-style dwellings that don't have lawns or gardens or what have you. It's a big ask. I think it's a very big ask that it's a change philosophy on the way New Zealanders live.
Is Christchurch under this plan essentially facing the prospect of two hearts, one for the tourist and one for the local?
Oh, look, no, I just think it's completely and utterly confusing. And I have said this for years when it comes to what is happening with planning in our city. I don't think the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. And I use the example of pinning the tail on the donkey in the dark, and that's what I think has been happening with the inner city. I know the Turners and Growers site has been a huge problem, but that's been inherited, to be fair. The heart of the city is Cathedral Square. Yep. And it doesn't matter what you try and do. It doesn't matter whether you put your marketing out there and have the nice pictures of people holding hands and walking down the lanes. The heart of the city is the square. Now, I don't know what it would cost, and it's probably cost prohibitive. I want those theatres back in the square. As soon as they took those movie theatres out and put them in the malls, it was a death knell. The buses, we need to do something there. You need to go down under the square. If it means dealing with the water table, deal with it.
All right. Then again, we could always shift the cathedral to Tuams.
Look, they might try.
We'll be back with the Rankin debate. The great Rankin Rumble is next. Do stay with us.